All right, Steelers fans, welcome into the Knoll Road. What do you think? Does this TJ Watt quote that has resurfaced and gone viral mean the Steelers and Watt are heading for a separation? He says it was huge in my contract talks. I don't want to play for anyone other than Mike T. It's polarized, Steelers fans, even though the quote is from 2 years ago. It's a testy situation right now, but maybe that's the clearest sign that it is time to consider all options when it comes to the Steelers' best player. Here we go.
Van to the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Austin and New Bear here. The Knoll Road. Like the video if you like the video. Cold enough for you, Bear?
6 degrees. Eight right now. Six degrees. 6. Pick sticks. Let's go.
Yes. Man, it's brutal. It's football weather. It's football talking weather. So he said this a couple of years ago. My interpretation is, he kind of said it to prove his loyalty to the Steelers and talk about how much he likes Mike Tomlin and sort of to play up while he was in the midst of a negotiation, how loyal he's been to the city, and he was expecting loyalty back in the form of cash money. So I think it's totally different. Like if you don't want to play for any other coach and it's like that, then really you would just retire at this point. And I don't think he wants to do that.
Hey,
so.
I mean, he almost did after the Peck. He wanted to go be a firefighter. The man has had a number of different dreams. And his brother, you talked about the comeback tour. I think we all wanted to see the whole Watt family. We had TJ and Derek. Well, why couldn't we get JJ to come on down to Steel Town?
But that's the way I'm approaching it if I'm like the front office or a fan. I'm like, I don't want to hold his feet to the fire for something he said a couple of years ago in a different context. And it
did come up, though, during the contract negotiations. Remember last year when we were talking about, is he worth it? I mean, this isn't just something that he said once and that's it. I mean, this is something he's been adamant about pretty much before, during, after. He's going to be saying this when he's getting his gold jacket.
But what I need right now is an updated take from TJ in order to react strongly one way or the other. Now I will say this, TJ, is it a flair for the dramatic on the field and a flair for being dramatic when it comes to some of his quotes? I don't know if they're the most well thought out quotes at all times. And, at times he does rub me a little bit the wrong way. Like I have wondered how much is his loyalty to the city and how much is it just to himself with some of the positions that he has taken. And maybe he's at a point where he's decided, I've had enough. You didn't make Tomlin feel appreciated. You didn't want to pick up the second year on his option, so screw you. I'm out of here. And now I want all the change. I want a new coach, new city, and a new team.
So we're not going to get a take from TJ until it's Chris Shula, Anthony Weaver, Raheem Morris, Mike McCarthy. Like, until they make that call, he's going to be ostrich mode. He might post some workout stuff. I think you're going to hopefully see him smiling sometime soon, because the dude looked like he had seasonal affective disorder at the podium, and it wasn't just about playoff losses. It was the weight of the expectations that come with the contract, that come after the lung, that come knowing, not necessarily maybe even believing or thinking based on his reaction to it, along with Aaron Rodgers and everyone else, but that their futility put Coach T on the line, right? So that you could go into one of those meetings at any time and have that be the last time, you're all together. And now that's transpired. So here we are. Here we go into the first unknown, really, of his career, where he was going to produce and then he was going to get paid. And then the only question was, how long can you keep that up and keep Father Time at bay? Now we're here with those questions without Tomlin to be in his corner. We're talking about, is Cam Hayward going to retire? Is Jalen Ramsey going to get moved? Everything potentially on the table until they pull the trigger and say, this is our new leading man.
So do you think he could want to go based on who the head coach hire is? I guess that's got to be on the table. He already had the dry needling incident of recent memory. Do you think it's possible he is kind of fed up with what's been going on with the Steelers and is disappointed that It was a very emotional scene last week, and that wound is going to take a while to heal. It's certainly not healed now. So if you would also drop a coordinator that he doesn't like or hasn't heard good things about, maybe that could agitate it enough to create some more serious animosity from him towards the organization before it's had time to heal.
Yeah, I mean, how about to your point about the change and is he more invested in himself and the way that he wants to do things? And after he just got a year of Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he could only have upped the ante on that in terms of this is the way you do things when you're one of those guys. When you're one of one, when you're him, you get to make the decisions. So if they don't call him into the room and say, hey, TJ, what do you think? Not that he's going to get to bring a bunch of his friends like Aaron Rodgers got to bring Thielen and MVS, but if they don't make him a part of the process, does that stuff start to, get aired a little bit? And the thing about TJ is there's a passive aggressive to it. You're not being silly about the drama. He will throw some stuff up on the gram that makes you wonder, exactly where his head's at. So as we go through this process, if Chris Shula comes in and says, TJ, here's the plan. We're going to move you around. You're going to do everything. And he's like, I'm not with that. He might force, to kind of go say, hey, all this stuff that's been reported about what I was saying that Coach T kind of let me do, if that's not how it's going to be, if you're not just going to let me get in a track stance and go hunt quarterbacks, if all that's really true, I think that's one of the things that I'm the most excited about is, these insider reports or the guys that are carrying water for the team, the flagship type stuff. Like, that's really the narrative, and that has been something that I could not believe that TJ Watt would say, I don't want to be the best version of myself. I just want to sit over here and get chipped and double and triple teamed and not get my counting stats and let everyone clap at me everywhere that you can clap. Some keyboard warriors. Like, if Chris Shula were to come in, if Mike McCarthy were to come in, anybody in between, and say, here's the plan, and he balks at that, like, is he a firefighter in 2026? Is he go home?
He wants to go be a firefighter. I'll believe it when I see it. But I get what you're saying as far as this could be another flashpoint, like football reasons. You can add to that medical reasons. You can add to that loyalty reasons. Maybe he wants to go chase a championship. Maybe this team decides to go with a young quarterback and let Ramsey go and doesn't make meaningful additions in free agency.
Cam retires.
You do have some work to do. Now, I could go either way with this, but, specifically looking at TJ Watt, if for one of those reasons he was like, I can look past this, but as a collection of them, I would really, like to entertain another address here for 2026 and beyond. I could get with that, from an organizational perspective. I think there's a path to victory. Adding another premium draft pick or two, a couple of picks in the first 2 days of the draft, that could be, really, really fun, especially if you're looking for your next quarterback and all that.
We can't talk about quarterbacks and draft picks without talking about what happened in Buffalo, without talking about what's happening all over the league. Where, I mean, if you're talking about people already speculating, like, would you trade TJ Watt plus these picks for Josh Allen? Those conversations are not going to stop, right? Even after the head coach is named, because we're talking about the chopping block. We're talking about the decisions that have to be made relative to the draft being here, relative to the rest of this staff, relative to the AR2 coming out and saying, we will never tank. We will never waste. 2026 is not going to be wasted. There will be no wasted years. I mean, they've only had 9 of them in, 50? I can't do the math. 56 years? Come on now. Like, we're seriously talking about this franchise saying for the first time in really my life, but maybe for the first time in their history, but certainly the modern part of it, like, everything's on the table. They sent George Pickens packing for the pick that they would have gotten for him anyway. They fired Matt Canada. Like, you talk about flashpoints, like things that they'd never done before. Firing coaches in season, moving on from Tomlin with years on his contract and the extension looming when, he's still winning non-losing seasons. Like, all these different things that are different. Hitting on draft picks for the first time. And I don't say that sarcastically. I mean, they changed the way that they do things. Like, you can talk about Colbert retiring, or you can talk about him kind of being saying, hey, let's go. Let's move this thing along. What's the quote that Tomlin gave at the team meeting? It's in the best interest of the organization for me to remove myself from this position. And so you can talk about him resigning or being gracefully given a parachute, but like the fundamental thing is things have changed, not are changing, not just Mike Tomlin predating him, his staff, the players associated with it, the way they spend, DK giving up picks and putting him on the Mount Rushmore, the medal stand of wide receivers. Like, so if everything is potentially on the table, and now we're talking about Mike McCarthy, TJ Watt can only be doing the same thing we're doing, which is just spinning every time he refreshes Twitter.
And I think Mike McCarthy does interweave with this story, because I think on the other side of this, with equal interest, is trying to build a championship roster out of what is still here. And maybe that isn't salvaging Aaron Rodgers, and maybe Mike McCarthy would get you closer to that than farther away. I know they've had a public reconciliation. They say there's nothing but love, but man, there is a lot of animosity in that rearview mirror between those two guys and how it kind of went down in Green Bay. I really felt like Rodgers cost McCarthy his job. I don't think they worked together to optimize each other. Rodgers got markedly more efficient and more dangerous when McCarthy left. So I don't know if that's the marriage that we want. We'll talk about Mike McCarthy in depth in a separate interview. But beyond that, independent of that, I'm interested in bringing this thing back together, because you could look at 2025 and say a lot of things went right. We need a better nose tackle, a thumper middle linebacker to add to the mix, and we need another wide receiver. And beyond that, we're good enough. So just add players, and hopefully, they with 12 picks, you only need a hitter on 3 or 4 of those, and you're a Super Bowl team next year, bro.
So here's where this gets really interesting. The math of it, because the salary cap stuff is bananas. Like right now, spot track, over the cap, like the baseline, if nothing changed, and the way that the accounting has to be done is TJ's dead cap money number is like $94 million next year. But then you go pre-June 1, post-June 1 cut, pre-June 1, post-June 1 trade, and it goes to like 32, and then there's 12 million in savings. And if it's literally the next day, those numbers flip, and you go, but you wouldn't do that because you would only do it at the time to try to make that decision and cut bait. But other teams know that too. So that, like, they know that if they can hold out, they can either give you less picks and players, less players, or hurt you in the salary cap and how you have to kick that can. So let's talk about just the 40.
Yeah, to your point, I think if they moved on from TJ Watt because of the salary cap ramifications, you would have to go through at least a minor rebuild in 2026. Like, you're not going to lose that player, take that much of a salary cap hit, and build a contender all in the same offseason.
Right.
That's playing much more the long game, and I'm okay with that.
But it depends on what the nuclear version of that is, because if you're sending him somewhere where they're giving you ones, which people think are completely off the table based on how he's fallen, we're no longer talking about Ty Simpson. There are people out there right now who are just like Fernando Mendoza and trying to find ways to get the Pittsburgh Steelers to the top of the draft. And I mean, let's be honest, the teams that are at the top of the draft need way more than Fernando Mendoza, wherever you stand on that young man. But what I was going to just real quickly dovetail into about the dollars and cents of it is Chris Shula and what he's done with like a $57 million defense. TJ Watt's $41 million. Chris Shula's never had a toy like TJ Watt, as expensive as TJ Watt, where you start talking about the math of this stuff and making things make sense. No matter what happens, they still have $65 million right now before they restructure anyone. That number only goes up, like, pending what they do with some of these moves. Like, you move on from Ramsey, or you move on from Watt, and Hayward doesn't retire, or you move him. Like, all these different ramifications, each one of those things influences another part of the conversation. Because if you go, we're going, George Allen, and we're bringing the Over the Hill gang back, then do you start talking about Highsmith and Herbig, and now we're talking about the depth. Now we're talking about maybe teams like them, and the picks are more for that, and the money is less for that. But now you're talking about compressing this thing, and you can't do that. Art Rooney, Pittsburgh Steelers, whoever this coach is, isn't going to do that with Will Howard. You bring TJ and everyone back and say, rally around this kid. Look at those 3 or 4 pieces we add in the draft. People are talking about Kyler Murray for a 3 and a 4, but he's 42.5 salary. He's the same money as TJ. So, like, all these ramifications influence everything else. But starting simply, flatly, and plainly with TJ, if it's Chris Shula, And he comes in and says, look what I did when the Rams told me I couldn't spend a damn thing. Pittsburgh Steelers already wrote the check for you. That money is guaranteed. Watch what we do together.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. And, Kyler Murray, I think if you want to explore that path, you wait till he is waived by Arizona and you try to sign him for significantly less without giving up any draft capital. I don't think he is that desired of a prospect right now. He could still be really good. I can't rule out Kyler Murray getting to the top of the mountain still in his career, but right now it's not worth significant investment. I think he's looking like a bridge quarterback. And with Mendoza, New Bear, I think he's good enough to go number one.
Yeah, but not Colin Coward, Ty Simpson. If Colin Coward wanted to give up 6 picks for Ty Simpson, is he going to go Ditka and give up the whole draft for Mendoza for the Steelers?
You could have 5 day 3 picks in a second for Ty Simpson.
So as we go through this, I believe I'm trying to double down on this team being a Super Bowl team and how quickly you get there. That's what the whole no road is about, right? How do you get back there? And how do you get back to those ethos of the standard truly being the standard?
And I'm just saying there's so many good players right now. You'd be foolish to be like, oh, we got to shut this thing down and rebuild. It just doesn't make sense.
Especially when you look at the math with Shula, they've had the 37 dead last in defensive spend, and all the EPA metrics are top 10, and every room that he's been in has seen a dude develop Pro Bowl, All Pro. They get sacks, they get pressure, they just put Caleb Williams in a blender. They just put him in a snow globe. And when you start looking at this and everyone gets a chance to breathe as we start talking about winter has come, and now just because it's 6 degrees here, Mike Tomlin's gone. So all spring heading into this draft on your stage on the North Shore, the narrative has been, how do we go get our quarterback? And how do we package these picks? Now all of a sudden you're talking about getting rid of TJ Watt. I don't care if he wants out. You figure out what sports psychologist, what conversation do you need to have to get, when you go pick the dude, let's say it's Anthony Weaver. And a lot of people have said, and I might have been a little bit wrong about Weaver in terms of where he's at in his career, because there's some people who think he could be in Baltimore with the family history they have with Ravensflock. And also then he wants to be the CEO and be like a Mike Tomlin, more like a hard ass Mike Tomlin, because he's a big data Dan Campbell type guy, big into next gen stats. And he's done all the things. And now he wants to run his own show. Imagine if he ends up in Baltimore and then they go hire a Mike McDaniel and they're doing all this crazy stuff because that's how they keep Lamar home, right? All these other jobs that are out. You talk about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. You talk about the Bills being in salary cap hell on top of that. You talk about rosters and injury and father time. All these conversations that you would have about the Pittsburgh Steelers and why this job is unattractive. Talk to me about TJ Watt coming back fresh, Cam Hayward reinvigorated. Maybe you do move on from Ramsey, but you're doing that because you don't believe that he's the same type of player, but someone else might if they're going to play him in a specific role, or you carve one out for him. And let's say you run it back with everyone. Now you're selling this new coach on what? Choose your own adventure at quarterback. This is interesting.
It is very interesting, but I think it does start with trying to pull this thing back together. And as long as Cam Hayward wants to play, you have these guys, and I think there's an opportunity here. Now, if you would determine internally, I think from the other side of it, New Bear, if you would determine that, hey, this guy is washed up, and maybe his attitude has become anti-Steeler, he doesn't really like us, and that's why things bother him so much. That's why he said things like this in the past. He really only liked Mike Tomlin. He liked being here as long as that was happening, and his reaction to that dry needling incident revealed kind of how frustrated he is with the overall organization and how we go about doing things. So if you would move on from him, I think there's a chance it's the perfect time. There is a chance that he regains all pro form and plays at 34, 35, 36 years old. But that is an absolute rarity. What Cam Hayward is doing for you right now is amazing. And we should celebrate it more. And they should embrace it instead of pretending like he's on the doorstep to getting old, because he has the Frank Gore trait or the Tom Brady trait or wherever you want to say that for some reason his athletic performance is not significantly declining like everybody else. So embrace the hell out of that. Try to bring this thing back and make a run at it with a better coach. I thought that was a great point. You've had all these guys along with a coaching staff that maybe hasn't put them in the best position to succeed? How much better would they be if you actually have an innovative offensive mind and a good quarterback? Like, don't give up on this group just because they haven't been able to win a playoff game for the last 10 years. I think there's a lot of good football left in here.
I want to think about this is people want to say, okay, what is this thing like? We talk about players. This player reminds me of that player. You talk about a coach who's going to come in. What is their system and who is he like? Who does he remind you of? Who did he learn from? What's the tree? And everyone but Tomlin has one in the NFL. But all kidding aside, who I can't stop thinking about is Kevin Green. Because when you talk about like how far away, you're crazy. This team can't win. They got to tear it down. It's going to be bro, Kevin Green. Remember Kevin Green? Kevin Green, 1995, Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And that's his last year here. And what did the Pittsburgh Steelers do? They went to the AFC Championship game. They went to the Super Bowl. And you lose to the Dallas Cowboys. And you got a decision to make because not everyone can get paid. And the Carolina Panthers say in their second year of existence, we want this dude. People thought Kevin Green was done. He was 33. He had, after 3 years of 10 straight sacks, he only had 9. Still a Pro Bowler, but not an All-Pro. Dude, he goes to Carolina in their second year of existence, leads the NFL in sacks, All-Pro 1, Defensive Player of the Year 2, and they go to the conference championship. Like, the variance inside this league from year to year is absolutely insane. And if you have a plan, you say, this is how we're going to invest, how we're going to invest, and how we're going to attack this thing. Like, if TJ Watt isn't a prime part of your plan and you force him to have, like, you turn this down, Mr. Watt, you're the one who has to say no. And if he does that, then it's beyond Instagram.
I mean, going into the season, if you look at the final 4 teams right now, the Rams would have been the only team that a lot of prognosticators were picking to even get this far. Seattle was a big surprise. They nailed the draft, and Sam Darnold has worked out for them. New England's ahead of schedule, had a heck of an offseason as well, remaking the offensive line and bringing in some weapons for Drake May. And then Denver, with Bo Nix, not a lot of people were even picking them to win the division. Yeah, even though it was Kansas City and the Chargers division.
And look at how crazy just the AFC West. Chargers lose both their prize tackles, and you talk about people being put in a blender. Justin Herbert, broken ribs, like dead man walking. Then Mahomes ACL. What does he look like? What does that come back? And Nix broke his damn ankle going to the AFC Championship. They got Jared Stidham to try to go to the Super Bowl. Like, it is still the one game, even more than hockey. It's the one game where the way the ball bounces and the way that snipers get ACLs or bones on turf is just different and can change everything in the blink of an eye.
All righty. In the blink of an eye, we're going to get a uploaded full video on Mike McCarthy soon and sort of investigate where we are as we believe they're waiting for Chris Shula in-person interview to be made possible next week, one way or the other. But the Mike McCarthy story evolving significantly here as we get going early in this conference championship week. And until then, we'll see you right here on the